and welcome to the Bad Movie Reviews channel, hosted by none other than myself, Ben, and Daniel. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's more of a pleasure to meet us anyway. Probably reviewing our most highly anticipated film, potentially of the decade, of the year for sure. Avatar: The Way of Water. We just got home from seeing it in our local IMAX theatre. Boy.
Yeah, way. A lot to unpack.
A lot to unpack. It'll definitely be a spoiler-free review.
Yep.
For sure. So if you haven't seen it, don't stress. We'll keep that out of this one. So what were your thoughts, Daniel?
Look, I'll just start off brief just to start off with. But
Yeah, just give us overall thoughts and then we can go unpack it a little bit.
I really enjoyed it. It was a cinematic masterpiece. Like the CGI and everything altogether was phenomenal. He did exactly what he did with the first one too, with the use of 3D. It wasn't to do anything gimmicky. It was really to build
Depth of field.
so much depth, to
Layers.
every single shot, to every single thing. And half the time you couldn't even notice it. But it just created so much context and texture to every single scene and shot. And I loved that part of it, for sure. Sam Worthington, great actor when he's not acting and he's just a voice. And I thought
It's mocap. So
Yeah.
technically he's acting.
yeah, he voiced really well. Once again, and I thought a lot of the new cast were quite complimentary to the overall plot and to his position within it. And yeah, I was about to do a half spoiler then, but I'll move away from them. But anyway, I enjoyed it. Yeah, and it had a little bit of things that it needed probably to work on, but I think overall, cinematic masterpiece. I don't know how he's done it. He's done it again. He's made a movie that no one will ever make for the next 30 years, and he's...
Well, it'll be another year, mate. That's
Yeah, right. Yeah, another year.
but I mean, 3.
This series
I get
of
what
movies...
you mean. In terms of filmmaking and the actual... The overall sort of spectacle.
Throwback to
nothing like it.
2009, it was an advancement, the first Avatar. And rewatching it now, it's still better than half the movies that have ever come out.
Well, it still is.
that.
It's an advancement that one's been able to advance on.
It is.
Really.
It is just...
Obviously, you've had CGI get better over the years, which is natural with technological, age over the years. But in terms of being able to build a world and, use what he had.
He definitely wasn't talking smack when he said his mocap, his motion capture was a lot better than any Marvel movie or anything out there. That's for sure. It's phenomenal. Oh, yeah, I loved it. But anyway, that's my brief thoughts, which were a little bit more detailed than I was expecting. How are yours? What did you think?
I'll go into brief thoughts and then we can kind of move from there. But overall, I thought this was a phenomenal movie. Like, it's kind of hard to touch on, really. I'm in pure awe. The spectacle, the actual... There's not really any film like this. It's probably one of the biggest blockbusters, or the biggest blockbuster I've seen. And you can... They earn every dollar that they've put into this. And I'm sure it'll do financially well. The 3 Bs that I've touched on in sequels is bigger, bolder, better, and I think it hit all 3. I do think it's definitely a bigger film. I do think it's a little bit bolder in terms of its storytelling, while it is actually a little bit generic for my liking in terms of the story. It's very similar to the first, but the one thing that I think it actually came down to is there's real stakes in this and it's something you can actually relate to. I know a lot of people talk about how they can't really relate to the first one, right? And it's just a generic story. But this one really comes down to one thing, and it's family and loved ones at the end of the day. And that's something that everyone can relate to. And I think that's something that they've done well. While generic, they could have used a little bit work on the story. But other than that...
the
CGI is just fucked. Like, I'm sorry for my language, but it is absolutely ridiculous. There are shots where I genuinely was like wide open mouth. I was like, how on earth is this even humanly possible? And you've seen, the fact that this film came out the same year as Thor: Love and Thunder, where you have a floating head that looks like dog shit, baffles me. Genuinely baffles me. There is no one making films like James Cameron.
That is a
in
fact.
terms of the scale, quality. The action filmmaking is ridiculous as well. He does action so well. Vistas, it is a beautiful world, and they have built on that lore that they built in the original Avatar extremely well. Another one of my, apart from my storytelling gripe, and that was a little bit basic and generic, there is one character that I just really dislike in this. Genuinely, like the actual, I don't know if it's the acting which I don't think was great. And I won't get into too much detail because it probably touches on spoilers, but the acting probably wasn't great, but it was also the writing for the character was a bit iffy. I thought everyone else was fantastic. Zoe Saldana's still a standout, as well as Kate Winslet, who is a new addition to this. She was great. And the whole, I guess, it did overstay its welcome a little bit. It is 3 hours and 10 minutes, which has been well documented. I personally felt as soon as, I guess you get to the water tribe onwards, which is it's not exactly a spoiler. It's well documented that obviously it takes place in water.
Yeah.
Pretty much from that bit onwards, my eyes were pierced, and the last sort of 60, 90 minutes were genuinely phenomenal. Everything before that kind of did feel a little bit ill-paced, like it was kind of action, then not action, but it was like, it was a little bit of work, but overall it's just like you can't help but fall in love with the film in terms of cinematic filmmaking. Like it is just that at its finest, and I don't think there's any film like it, really. It's genuinely a marvel.
It was amazing, and you're 100% right.
On the character.
Yeah,
I won't touch on too much. I'm sure if you've seen the film, you're in Australia, it does come out tomorrow, even though there were preview screenings, but I think America, it's Friday the 16th. But when you see the film, you'll probably sit here watching the review. If you do watch the review for all our subs, you'll probably know exactly who we're talking about. It's really not that hard to piece together.
I would have loved if it was actually longer. The only reason I wanted the movie to end is because I was busting to go to the loo. But I'll tell you what, it's a phenomenal film. 3 hours, 10 minutes is...
Look, it's not that the length was bad. It was just, I think, the overall pacing.
The pacing started off odd.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
It didn't start slow. It just took a while to build momentum. And the last 90 minutes is kind of just constant. Whereas the first...
it was two sets of different paces that were happening between those major changes.
Yeah, which I understand because, you've got 3 acts in a film. And I think the first and second act are a little bit iffy, but... it really picks up, and just the fact that this film exists, to be honest, like just blows me away. If you haven't seen our review for the first one, obviously that's up. We reviewed the 4K re-release, and I think it does reach all 3 Bs for me as a sequel.
Without a doubt.
I'll be buying this on 4K and rewatching it. I wonder what it looks like in 2D, to be honest. Because I think this is definitely a film. Go see it in your IMAX. You got to see it in 3D, 100%. Yeah. It adds so much to the shot, and it's meant for 3D, and I think that's why majority of theaters are showing it in 3D. But I do wonder what it looks like in 2D, because I think 3D definitely adds to the film. One thing I got to give props to is the fact that, like, James Cameron, there was also shot sequences that were shot in 48 FPS, which, for anyone who doesn't know, all films are made in 24 FPS. That's the moving rate of frames per second. And 48 FPS, it just looks a lot, like not necessarily a lot smoother. You can tell it's just moving fast. So when you're watching the film, you can tell. And it has been seen in films before with, I think, The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug, which...
Really?
That was the first film to use it. You can tell when Legolas is like jumping up
doing the
like it looks dog shit. Yep. In that film, it felt really janky. In this film, it works really well, and what's phenomenal is the actual forefront of the subjects of the film are in 48 FPS, but everything behind it actually is in 24, which is just how they did that. I don't know, and don't ask me because I'm not by any means qualified. Send James Cameron an email; he'll probably tell you to jog on if anyone's watched his press junkets and things like that. But no, I'm genuinely like I could talk about this film all day. Obviously, spoiler free, but I just think it's a phenomenal movie and everyone should go see it. Can't wait for the third one. Is there anything kind of you're
definitely spot on with the plot, and then like its relation to the first film, where the first film was like really good, but there wasn't really too many there was a couple of lovable characters. There wasn't too many relatable. You really couldn't put yourself in too many of those positions because it was kind of far-fetched of an idea, I guess. But this one, you're right, 100%. It is something where I think everyone can relate to what's going on in the film to a level.
Yeah, like the world's far-fetched, don't get me wrong. Like,
but that's sci-fi. But sci-fi,
it comes down to family. And
100%.
I think you do, while doing that, it is a bit generic, but the reality is everyone can relate to it, and it also has stakes, this film as well, which I don't think that necessarily the first one... It did, but like you really feel emotion in this, and it is an emotional film at times for sure. And similar to the first one, he also chats about, it's also got themes of environmental aspects kind of thing,
Always.
like corporate
Yeah.
greed, environmentalism, which James Cameron's always done. And you can definitely tell his love of water as well, which you've seen. Obviously, he's made Titanic, The Abyss. He's made films in the water aspect, and you can tell, like, he loves water. He's very much an environmentally friendly guy, and you can definitely tell with the way he deals with water and the subjects and even the not only the characters but the animals. He makes the animals feel
Also,
like characters
how
too.
great all that looked. I feel like making a whole movie in water is
Well, they did that. I think
it's difficult.
I think it said Kate Winslet held her breath for like 7 minutes while filming.
7.5 minutes.
Yeah.
She came up and questioned if she was dead.
Yeah, no, they filmed all the underwater scenes were done underwater.
That's
all the mocap
next level. That is
which
next
makes
level.
sense because you need to obviously make it look realistic in terms of the character movement in water. So,
Yeah,
they
that's
kind
one of the hardest bits to like sometimes like reanimate or integrate.
It is ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah.
But is there anything else? I guess you wanna touch on? I know you said briefly.
For me, I love this film, as you know, and I was going to love it even if they just showed me the intro with the word Avatar and then credits rolled. I would have loved it. For me, it was definitely like Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. So Two Towers had this like slow pacing and then ended up with like this epic thing at the end. And I'm ready for what's going to come if that's going to be the final part. Or I know obviously there's more that goes on.
I think there's 5 more coming, potentially.
But for me,
no,
this
not
was
5
like-
more. Sorry, there will be 5 overall.
This definitely felt like the Two Towers of Lord of the Rings. It was like there was a lot of cool aspects, a lot of key aspects. It was gorgeous, but you could tell it was
Building up the world a
middle.
little bit. Yeah,
it was like creating that universe for the next bunch of films to come in and just like fucking rock your world.
Yeah, and I know they've done filming the 3rd one and they've started filming the 4th. By all means, I think the box office reports come out and it's looking to make about 600 mil first weekend. So
About what I make.
I
a
would
week.
say, yeah. So my weekly annual wage, so
That's your hourly,
weekly salary.
That's
sorry.
your hourly rate, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For this podcast, not podcast channel. Thanks to you guys for supporting us. But so by all means, there will be a 3rd and 4th, and hopefully a 5th. I don't think they've started work, but by all reports, the financial success that this will be, I'd say there will be. But other than that, that's all.
I could just keep talking about how much I loved it and how much it's like. Obviously, I love video games too. If you watch any of our other videos, video games is something I always bring up. And that one's coming out for Avatar. And just give me the
the Ubisoft game.
Give me the
for sure.
universe. That's it.
I think it's impeccable universe. I don't think James Cameron's ever been like a really strong script writer, but the worlds he's built and the director.
I think you're saying for this film too. Not just this film, but the rest of them too. He started building the universe, didn't he?
Yeah, he, like over a few years, he definitely he built the lore and obviously created the new
3 years building lore.
yeah, which is expected. I mean, needed to be done if you're going to create a sci-fi universe. It's a
And you
reality.
really want it to kind of all roll on and be,
like hit in succession and actually do well.
yeah.
Other than that, we'll cap it off there.
Just cap it there. Keep talking.
Please go see it. Let
Yep.
us know what you think in the comments. If you've seen it, if you watched the review, who knows. Other than that, we'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.